Most of my friends call me Lil Kenny Dog, but since this is what you call a proper podcast, I go by my real name, Kendra. Yes, I know my name is lame, deal with it. Now it's time to be serious, so keep your ears open. In 26, a famous town was created. If you haven't guessed the town by now, spoiler alert, I'm talking about Salem. 66 years after Salem was created, the famous Salem witch trials began in 1692 and ended in 1693. Now, what is hysteria? No, I did not say diarrhea, I said hysteria. If I could write a simple definition to describe this 4-syllable word, I would answer with 4 words: the Salem witch trials. Yeah, I know, obviously that's not the real definition of hysteria, so in case you have never learned the meaning of this word, I'm going to educate you. Hysteria is an overwhelming fear and excitement that overrides all logic and is often enhanced by the presence of others who are acting out on that fear. Because of this podcast, you'll soon figure out that hysteria was a major factor in the many accusations that occurred throughout the Crucible. Oh yeah, I should probably inform you about what the Crucible is all about, if you don't know already. The Crucible is a dramatized and partially fictionalized story of the Salem witch trials. This story is based off a play created by American playwright Arthur Miller in 1953. Now, it's time to cut to the point. Following initial accusations, Abigail, a 17-year-old teenager at the time, and her sidekicks falsely testified that certain individuals are involved in witchcraft and have begun to curse community members. During the trials, each girl fakes being so-called sick or would faint when needed. Basically, the trial of accusing innocent humans was just a game to them. The girls follow Abigail's erratic behavior and actually believe that they are being attacked by a person's spirit. Why? The only explanation I have for this is simply the girls all went bonkers. Hysteria is most evident in Act 3 when Abigail mentions that there is an invisible bird flying throughout the room and begs Mary Warren, one of her sidekicks, not to hurt her. The other girls join Abigail and begin to repeat everything that Mary says. Mary, who is terribly frightened by this at the time, joins the hysterical girls as they begin to accuse John Proctor of acting with the devil, supposedly. During her hysterical fit, Mary Warren says, "He come at me by night and every day to sign." By Mary saying this, the atmosphere of the trial became very tense, so tense that Proctor angrily said, "God is dead." If it wasn't for hysteria, I believe many lives would have been saved. Unfortunately, the court fed into Abigail and the hysterical girls' nonsense, so sadly many innocent people died. Basically, the hysteria in this town got way out of control. Hysteria is everywhere and is demonstrated by anyone, including Adnan Syed's case. Before I get ahead of myself, let me first explain to you who Adnan Syed is and how I learned about him. Adnan Syed. First of all, think to yourself, does that name ring a bell? It may, because Sarah Koenig, an investigative journalist, created a podcast, famously known as SerialPodcast, about this man, in which is why I am so familiar with this name, Adnan Syed. At the age of 17, Adnan was charged with the murder of his ex-girlfriend, Hayman Lee. Just like the Crucible, hysteria began with one person. In the Crucible, Abigail accused many innocent people of being witches. In Adnan Syed's case, an acquaintance of Adnan's named Jay Wilds was the new Abigail, you could say. After the murder of Hayman Lee, Jay confessed that he knew Adnan Syed killed Hay. By Jay pointing fingers at Adnan Syed, he created a lot of hysteria in Adnan's case. Let me remind you what the definition of hysteria is. Hysteria is an overwhelming fear and excitement that overrides all logic and is often enhanced by the presence of others who are acting out on that fear. I believe Sarah Koenig created the SerialPodcast because she believed there was a chance that the courts were wrong and that Adnan Syed could be innocent. Who knows, Adnan could be free if Jay hadn't pinpointed Hay's death on Adnan and gave the justice system a person to blame for this murder. You may ask, why is Adnan the perfect person to frame for this murder? Well, unfortunately, stereotypes were used in this murder, which led him to being convicted. Adnan is Muslim and a Pakistani American. The racial and religious prejudice evident in the justice system makes it easier for the state to frame him as a criminal. There was no solid evidence against Anon, so basically the conviction of Anon demonstrates that there is stereotyping present in the judicial system, and this is something that needs to be fixed in today's society, like now. Till this day, Anon Syed is still trying to be proven innocent. I'm not trying to be dark and all, but hysteria and stereotyping can literally destroy lives. For instance, in the Crucible, Abigail created massive hysteria in Salem, which resulted in many destroyed lives, such as John Proctor's life. Stereotyping and hysteria basically destroyed Anon Syed's life because he's serving jail time for a murder he may not have done, all because Jay pointed his finger at Anon and because Anon was the perfect person to frame because of his race and religion. I cannot stress this enough. Look past hysteria and don't stereotype anything or anyone. Human lives could literally be destroyed.